Did you guys go? Which tour did you take? Did you take like middle school, upper school? Okay, cool. I think we're waiting on one more group, and then we'll get the official film. Okay. Not many previews going on right now.
I know, there's like no comedy routine or anything like that?
I had a question, but then Mr. Mitchell was like, we should wait for a bit.
Okay, so good.
For you guys that are here that are like looking at the school, for you like teenagers and whatnot, you guys get used to the ties.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
It's not that bad.
Yeah, a couple guys who already had the ties on today.
I actually feel like I'm like out of dress code when I'm at home. It's kind of fun. Yeah.
Out of dress code at home. But
Yeah.
no demerits at home for being out
Yeah,
of dress
no,
code.
you're
so
right.
that's good.
My parents don't mind wearing sweatpants, but
No,
that's a no-go here.
Extra
Do you ever wear
chores.
a jacket also with the tie?
So jackets are normally for like special occasions like this. Some kids wear jackets every day. That's just if they want to. But most kids, you'll wear your tie, your belt, your button-down shirt, your pants, button-down shirts.
You can wear quarters out.
Yeah, that's for like when it gets a little colder. We're really lenient on shirts, just no flannel. it could be like any design, any pattern, unless it's like.
Dress code is collar, shirt, button
Yeah.
down shirt, and tie. It has nothing about it looking good or being matching or anything else.
Yeah. Like you can wear a blue shirt with like a, I don't know, polka dot green tie.
That might be in like the looking good end of the spectrum for some guys. Where we have guys who wear Hawaiian shirts with ties and when it gets worn just for fun. And, hey, you gotta have a little personal flair and twist on things. And that's just high school, to be clear. I know a lot of you guys are looking at lower and middle too. Lower and middle, as you saw when you're touring, it's a pretty standard boys Latin polo, sort of khaki blue pants. And we loosened up with tennis shoes in lower school now. So that's good. It's an easy year between PE and coming in and out. But yeah,
it's
the
like
tie is primarily upper school with middle school wearing ties for special occasions throughout the year. And as Mr. Post mentioned, have this tie ceremony that just have the fifth graders as a part of kind of transition into that middle school role. So all these challenges we're talking about are, for those of you who are looking a little bit earlier on, they're for years. I think we've got a report that middle school is supposed to be that, so we'll get started here.
Alrighty. Where are we starting? Middle school.
It's okay, Mr. President.
Mr. President.
I'm missing my.
The middle school group is getting ready to walk through the door. I think we should all just start laughing like we've been having a great time telling great jokes. They feel like they've been missing out on something in here.
What was your favorite part of the tour? Say the punchline.
Military.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm actually in a class that works in the military museum with Mr. Meisel. It's a special class called Museum Curatorship, and it's three of us, me and two other guys, and we help him basically almost like we work at a museum, like catalog the artifacts, make sure they're maintained. That's probably one of my favorite classes here right now because it's just so different and really cool.
And that's an elective?
Yeah. So well, it's actually kind of more like a history class. You could take that your senior year as one of your history courses. So yeah.
It's a quite specific and selective class.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. You have to get a recommendation from the head of the history department to go through that class.
All right, well, welcome back to our middle school group. We're back. This isn't pretty impressive. We all got back roughly on time here, which is great. So we're going to go ahead and get started in respect to your all's time and these young men's time, get them back in class, move forward. I just want to start, I think in my decaffeinated, uncaffeinated state this morning, I might have referred to Brandon inappropriately. He's our head of middle school. I may have had admission slipped in there somewhere, so I apologize. I didn't have the caffeine going full force yet this morning. So hopefully they give you a good sense for the division that you might be interested in for your son. By all means, if you haven't had, I know some of you have, if you haven't had a chance to come and do an individual tour, have a little more flexibility to go into any various space that we didn't see today that you might be interested in seeing. So today, try to give you a good overview of what that looks like, give you a chance to see maybe a little bit of the boys and teachers in action. But these gentlemen are really, this is what it's all about. School is very much about relationships between teachers, students, the students and their peers. And these guys, we say we could always go grab any students and throw them up here, and we're proud of all of them and what they've accomplished. But these guys kind of hit on a lot of different interests that are out there that may resonate with you and your son and what you're interested in. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. All upper school students have started at different points along the way in the school here. So Lowell started in the lower school, a couple guys who started in the middle school. So I'll let them give you a little quick introduction of themselves. I'll ask a question, get things going, but as they're talking, hopefully you guys start thinking of things that you want to hear about, either that you saw on your tour, want to follow up on, or something they mentioned, and I'm going to kick it to you guys pretty quickly. So start thinking of what those questions could be. Lowell, kick us off.
Hi, so I'm Lowell Hairston. I've been here since first grade. Currently I'm the head of the honor board, and I'm a member of the varsity lacrosse team.
I'm Brandon McClure. I've been here since sixth grade. I'm the student body president, member of varsity soccer and lacrosse, and I'll be attending University of Richmond next fall.
My name is Jake Miller. I've also been here since sixth grade. I'm a varsity actor. I'm part of the student government alongside Braden, and I'm also in a number of different clubs.
My name is Jake Sims. I've been here since my freshman year, and I'm one of the captains of the robotics team.
Great, thank you all. Maybe it's just sort of on my mind because we had senior speeches yesterday. So all of our seniors give a speech to the entire upper school. We have a similar program in the middle school as well. But inevitably, if we have 3 or 4 seniors speaking, there's something about their time here on Lake Avenue, the relationships that are formed that come out. And maybe it's the focus of their entire speech. And that was certainly the case the other day with a couple of our students and how much strength and support they've gotten from this community over the years. So I was going to start off and just ask each of these guys to go through and reflect on a favorite memory that you have, or you look back on one of those relationships maybe that stands out to you as you go forward. So we'll just run down the line and then have you guys jump in with questions after that.
So being here in all 3 divisions, I can talk about my favorite experience from each one. So in lower school, I had, she still works here, my teacher, Ms. Pierce, and she was absolutely amazing. She not only taught me like grammar and all those simple things, but I think in lower school it's a real time to learn how you're going to be when you get older, and so I really learned a lot on how to be kind, on how to be empathetic, and she was absolutely wonderful for that. I'll never forget one time I got in trouble for I didn't let my friend sit next to me at lunch one day, and it's really, I felt horrible after the fact, and me and this one teacher we just had a conversation about it later, and I owned up to my issues. I talked to the principal. I eventually talked to the kid that I didn't let sit next to me, and it was a great learning experience. I'll never forget that. In middle school, it was like a weird time for me. It's a weird time for a lot of people in middle school. But I hurt my knee, and I had to have 2 surgeries. It was terrible, and I'm an athlete. So I didn't get to play lacrosse for like an entire year and a half. And it was just an amazing time to experience the brotherhood that we have here at BL, and how each one of my students, like each one of my classmates, they all cared so much about me, and like they would carry my books to class and all that when I was on my crutches, and it was amazing. And then in high school, last year, it was my junior year, and I took APUSH, which is AP US History. It's probably one of the hardest classes we have here, and it was with a really challenging teacher too. His name is Mr. Osborne, and he was an amazing teacher. He taught not just for the AP test, but he taught also outside of the book, so we could have a greater knowledge of what United States history was actually like. And it was wonderful, but at the beginning of the year, I almost felt like I wanted to drop out. There were essays and huge readings that I never thought I could handle. And so I turned in a late assignment, and like my grade just plummeted, and I was really worried. But eventually, I almost wanted to switch classes. He convinced me to stay. And I ended up doing really well in that class, and I got a 5 on the AP exam. So those are my 3 best experiences.
So I came here in 6th grade, so I've been here for middle school and high school. My favorite experience from middle school was the 7th grade camping trip. So all 7th graders, we go on an extracurricular camping trip for a couple days. I think it was to like Northern Maryland or something.
Yeah.
But it was basically at an encampment, like a camp, and we just had a really good time. Like I still remember like one of our teachers dressed up in a ghillie suit, and he doesn't work here anymore, but his name is Mr. Meisel. He's been a part of the military, and like in like such a fun way. He like he scared us one night, and this was a great like experience, like something to remember. It's like a funny thing that I will never forget. One of the seniors in the senior speeches yesterday even mentioned it, and it was just really funny to look back on.
Yeah.
So it's just like a nice thing to kind of get your mind off of all like the constant work, like everything, all the pressures that put on you as like a student. And then in high school, we have a senior retreat for all the seniors, and I went on that last year, and a couple of us will be leading that this year, and it was one of the greatest things I've ever experienced, hands down. You really get to open up about yourself to all your friends. It's something I'll never forget. So,
yeah. Before I say my two memories or relationships, I wanted to comment on the 7th grade camping trip. Not only is that a time where you do things that you never would have seen yourself doing, like me going into a cave as a 14-year-old and like crawling through like tunnels, something I never would have seen me doing, but also it was just like one of the core bonding experiences as a grade. Like if I asked the class 2020, what are the top 3, bonding moments you shared on everybody's list, it would be the 7th grade camping trip. So I just wanted to add that. I'm actually going to talk about 2 relationships I had with people in the BL community. One is really special to me. It's with my Laker buddy. So we have a program here called Laker Buddies where an upper schooler or middle schooler pairs with a lower schooler. And normally the pairing is random. What ended up happening is there was a lower schooler that had the exact same name as me, Jake Miller. So it was meant to be. So I was paired with him in 6th grade, and from 6th grade to now 12th grade, I've been hanging out with him. So he was in kindergarten when I was in 6th grade, and now I'm in 12th. And it's really an amazing experience. I go see him every week. I go hang out with him, and basically all I do is I go over to the class, I hang out with him, I help him do homework. But it's such a big deal for the younger guys. They love it. They really look up to you and see you as a role model, and that's one of the greatest things for me, just being able to have that really special relationship with a guy that is a little bit younger than me. And my second relationship that I'm going to talk about is with one of my teachers that I had freshman year and junior year. His name's Mr. Freeman. He teaches biology here. Freshman year, I feel like it's a little bit of a bump for everyone, but specifically for me, I had a rough time, finding my identity in the upper school, as in, what do I want to do, what I want to be known for, what group do I want to be a part of, that kind of thing. And then I realized, if I'm just, true to myself, just find out what I want to do and do it, I won't have a problem. And one of those people that helped me is Mr. Freeman. He is, very passionate about what he does, and that really helped me be passionate for what I want to do. And so I'm in his advisory now, and we just formed a really cool relationship about just being able to be ourselves and be nerdy, and no one's really going to care because we have such a great environment here where you really can do whatever you want and be interested in what you want, and people aren't going to judge you for it.
Probably one of my favorite relationships was with a teacher named Mrs. B, or Mrs. Bergstresser. She's a mentor on the robotics team, and she came here last year, and we just bonded instantly. We've spent countless hours just talking about random robotics things, as us robotics kids do, and we've just had a lot of fun together talking. She taught me last year as well. And I felt like I was able to really succeed in her class.
Thank you all. May seem odd to people who aren't a part of our community. You mentioned something like a teacher dressing up in a ghillie suit, scaring you, and that being a really formative experience. But I think it highlights to me how much our teachers, they want to be in this type of environment. They like working with young men and boys. They like teaching them. They know how to engage with them in a way, both on a trip, a camping trip like that, on a field, that then translates over in the classroom and allows you to push and know that they care about you and they're going to push you and have your best interests in mind, that allow you to then stick with it and get a 5 on the AP exam, or working on those foundational skills in the lower school that allow you to get to the level of taking AP calculus, multivariate calculus, or whatever's appropriate for you, and continue to challenge yourself and push you as a student along the way. So it might seem like an odd kind of comment or memory to bring up, but when you're here, you get it, because that's just what makes our teachers so great, is that they really enjoy connecting with the kids in all these different ways, and they understand how to work effectively with these boys and get the most out of them all along the way. So appreciate those insights and sort of memories, and going back to lower and middle school in some cases, only a couple years back now for a couple of you guys. So who has the first question? You have something that either came out of your tour about the school in general, something that's been on your mind that you'd love to ask either one of these guys or all of these guys? Yes, ma'am.
I noticed you wearing pens. How do you accumulate pens that I see from?
Yeah, so on my other blazer, I have a few more pins, but mostly you get them for big events. So 8th grade convocation or closing convocation, you get one for moving on to the upper school. Another pin you get during your junior retreat, which is kind of your like class pin. Other ways you can get pins are participate in certain clubs like robotics. You can get a pin for getting an award in 8th grade. So it's mainly, you know, award recognition, but every student's going to end up having around like 3 pins, and they're just a cool way to commemorate like how long you've been here, basically.
And is it required to wear them?
It's not required, but you know, people like wearing them.
Yeah, I don't wear all my robotics pins because it's just like they're bigger than the usual pin, and I don't feel like wearing all of them. But you know, it's just a little bit of flair that you can kind of show off.
Yeah, with the dress code, you know, it's a lot of kids like to, you know, personalize their outfits, like within the rules of the dress code. Like I wear a Star Wars tie almost every day, so that's just something I like to do.
I don't think I've seen you without a Star Wars tie.
He has a point.
Just to be clear, it's not Applebee's and it's not the military. So the flair idea, the awards and commendations. So it's sort of a little bit of a humble brag for these guys. These guys are humble, but they've accomplished a lot of things, and it's just a small way to recognize that for our boys going through. I'll go here and then over
I
there.
just wanted to ask if any of you came from public school and transitioned into private, and how was that transition?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So I transitioned from public elementary school to private middle school, which I honestly, in my opinion, I feel like that might be a little stranger than going from public middle to public high, because that elementary middle school I feel like is the biggest jump. And I was living in Carroll County and going to a public elementary school in Carroll County, and my family applied me to Boys Latin and I got in, and then we eventually moved up here my 7th grade year to live right near BL, and you know, I was going to now a private middle school. The transition was, I'm not gonna say it was super easy, but after it was over, I realized it was one of the best transitions my family has made in general, just by virtue of the fact that you know, from being in relationships and still communicating with people that I know that were in the, you know, the same public schools as me and are now in public high school, it's just so different. The learning environment's really different. I'm able to know every single name of my classmates. You know, in elementary school, I wasn't really able to do that, but from middle school onward, I can tell you every single person that's in my grade, which is something I really value. So I can say I have a relationship with every single one of those people. So probably the biggest difference is, you know, the size of the class, but also the fact that teachers can really form relationships with the students. Like I would have never had strong relationships like I do with my teachers as I did in elementary school. My relationships are much stronger now.
So I was the same way as him. I came from Hampton Elementary, which is a public school in Baltimore County, to into 6th grade, and pretty much the same things he said. But the one thing I'd like to add is the fact that it's only boys instead of boys and girls in the classroom, which actually is a big benefit, because I used to be very shy. I would try to keep quiet all class in 5th grade, I remember, and the year I came in 6th grade, I was still shy. Obviously, it takes a little time to get into the groove, I guess. But it definitely helped out once I got to 7th grade, and I was like fully fit in. It was great for me. I was able to explore like different passions I started to know, and it was definitely beneficial in that way.
He's speaking about being shy, but he's also a class Bradley does.
Yeah.
I used to be shy.
And Lowell's been here really early on, and Jake transitioned from an independent school down in the Annapolis area. Coming up, I think another point that I'll just piggyback on quickly is I think it's important to point out that we have orientation programs for all of our students. So I would say the majority of our students are actually coming from public schools at every different level. So even though that seems like maybe a less than traditional transition of elementary to middle, it actually happens very, very often. That's where our students are coming from. We have in lower and middle, you know, almost a full week of orientation programs just for new students the week before classes start, or late summer. Upper school, we do more of a combined orientation program right as the school year is starting. And I think Jake's point is a good one. Some people take to it like a duck like water. They're just off and running and it's great and they do well. Others, the transition may take a little bit longer. That's where size is so important. I mean, we're a small school by design. This is exactly the size we want to be. And it means that we can connect with these kids. We can identify when a student's made that transition is not going as well as it should, whether it's first year or transition from elementary to middle to high school, the advisory system we have in place. So I think everything they said is sort of the student perspective of it. I think behind the scenes as administrators, we're doing a lot to ensure that we hopefully make that transition as smooth as possible and recognize that our students are coming from a lot of different backgrounds. And there is going to be a little bit of a change when you come to a new school for sure.
To the gentleman, I think you said you had AP history. So 2 questions. How much homework did you have in that specific course? And a general question, anyone on the panel, how much homework on average would you have in general, but specifically the AP?
So I took AP, I'm taking AP World now. I took AP last year, and I took AP Euro sophomore year. Each one of those classes was actually different in terms of the workload. It depends on the teacher. Currently, the teacher sort of relies on us to do a lot of the do our own just like sort of work. I think as seniors, he's relying on us to be committed to the class and try our hardest. And so he gives us projects, and we run through slideshows in class. But usually our homework is like a project on a specific type of era in history. Like we just did gunpowder empires, and so he usually gives us a week to do the project or an essay. Last year though in APUSH we had a significant amount of homework. We had essays every weekend. We had readings almost every other night or so. And so it's a good amount, but it's helpful that we can balance our work with whatever school, because I played lacrosse last year and I was very nervous about whether I was going to have enough time. And I made it work, and the teacher also understands that we all have other things to do. Like we are also just humans in this world. So he certainly understood that, and he if you had an actual issue in terms of how to manage your time, he would listen to you and he would grant you maybe an extra day or so. And I'd say in general, maybe 2.5 hours of work.
So if I could ask a follow-up then, in your balance as a lacrosse player, how did you also find time to go to the gym, lift weights, work out?
Yeah, I think I sort of fell into like a rhythm, and I think it's really helpful to do that. I live 30 minutes without traffic, so in the mornings it's maybe a 45-minute drive there and back, and so I usually would go to practice. It would go until, and we'd have workouts in that scheduled time. So it's usually 3:30 to 5:30, something around that area. It depends. And then I would go home, take my shower, eat my dinner, and then I'd probably work until maybe 10. So that's sort of the rhythm that I fell into. And also, when you take 4 APs, you have the option of having 2 free periods during the day. At least most days of the week. So also utilizing those free periods is very helpful.
I live an hour and a half away from school, so that's 3 hours every day just to get here. Yes, Jesus. That's a correct word. And then I'm also on the robotics team, and that's you have to be in the lab at least 20 hours a week. So most of my weekends are sucked away in the lab and doing work. But you, like Lowell said, you fall into a rhythm and you just keep on going. So as long as you're dedicated and you're focused, it's not that hard to get your homework done and pass the class. So.
Yeah. So I was also in the AP US History class with Braden and Lowell, and I took 4 in all last year, and I'm taking 4 this year. So my experience with AP classes, basically, after junior year was like the test run for me. Am I going to be able to do this in senior year? And the answer was yes. What happened with me is, everybody's talked about rhythm. That's also true. What happened for me specifically was I was able to basically realize that, if I got my stuff done, I would still have time to, relax or, play a game or something. Because I acted My schedule is a little different. During the fall and the spring, our practices would be like Monday through Thursday, 6 to 8. So I'd have to go home and then come back to school. So it kind of, made things a little difficult to get homework done. But I really utilized my free periods. That was the year where I really, worked hard during my free periods. And probably the thing I learned most from doing all that work was, like, after you do that, like, everything seems easy. Like, after that 1 year, I'm looking at this year, I'm like, oh, I have nothing to do. I only have to write an essay and, do 4 pages of, this analysis. And it's like, it doesn't seem like a lot. So really, it might seem difficult at first, but after you get over that initial, like, learning curve for knowing how to manage your time with homework, I feel like I could go to college and, a professor would hand me, say, okay, read this book in 4 days. And I'd be like, okay, that seems easy. Like, I feel like I'm really well prepared after the workload I've had for going into college. So to answer your question, it is a lot of work at first if you're taking those high level classes, but you will get used to it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Just as Jake said, part of it is preparing these guys, whatever grade you're in, is preparing you for the next grade, the next division, with ultimately going off to college being the goal for all these guys. And you prepare, just as Jake said, that's what we hope all of our boys feel like. But I think as Lowell said, they are humans. They were humans when they came to us at 5 or 6 years old. So there's a part of this that's also, yes, it's the English, math, science, foreign language, history, arts that we're teaching, but we're also trying to teach these other skills that translate over to a lot of different areas in life. So to be a good self-advocate, to have the self-efficacy and time management, to look ahead and go to that teacher and say, I have an away match and I have these 2 tests. Can we work something out here that's reasonable? I mean, those are skills that are going to translate over to college as much as anything. That's a big part of what we're trying to do at every level. Don't want to I need a PowerPoint display to get into schedules and all that type of stuff, but just know our schedule is really thoughtfully put together at every division as well, to build in some time for these boys to understand what their work looks like in the upper school, to have a free period, to have some designated study hall times in other divisions, to get a jump start on work, to know what's ahead, to be able to have a chance to meet with teachers during the day, to make sure that you're managing your time well, and other skills and traits that we're working on all along the way. So it can be a big workload, but we are trying to be very intentional again about setting these guys up for success.
We don't have every class every single day, so it's also a good skill I learned last year was planning out your week. So organizational skills is also extremely big in being successful, especially in that class last year that we all took. And just having a big workload. So that's definitely a big skill that I've learned and
And then you can talk
mastered.
to teachers too. That's like the really nice thing is that if you're struggling in class, you can go to the teacher and be like, hey, I'm struggling. Can we just sit down for like 5 or 10 minutes so I can like wrap my head around this subject that I'm not fully understanding? It's really helpful.
I can't tell you how many times I've walked into, my AP Calculus BC class and said, Mr. Sargent, please help me with this problem, because it's probably one of the first classes where I've hit like some serious roadblocks, learning wise. But I have that time during my free period to go to him and say, could you please help me with this? And he is 100% willing to help me and make sure that I understand what's going on.
Also, I'm sorry, I know you have a question, but I also wanted to harp on the fact that I can also talk to my coaches about my work as well. It's not just me talking to the teacher and saying, I need more time. I can also look to my coaches and say, like, can I just miss a little bit of practice? I have to get my work done, and they absolutely understand. They know school comes first. So yeah.
I was just curious, I know, Lowell, you had said your hardest time here was when you had your surgeries and had to get through that. And I know time management is another thing, but I'm curious as to what other challenges you guys have faced here, and then how you either solve the issue or rose above, or
So
You mean like personal or-
speaking on
personal, or I mean, not really educational, because that's what the advocacy is for, and
Yeah.
asking questions and getting help, but more on a personal level.
Okay. So personally, I went to an Apostolic Christian for 8 years, and then I was homeschooled my 8th grade year, and then I came here my freshman year. That's a little bit of background. So coming in, I really didn't have any friends, and I didn't really know who I was going to connect with. This was a new school, all boys was a little bit of a kind of weird change for me. I actually connected instantly with Jake Miller over just simple, I think we had a free period together.
We also have the same name.
We also had the same name. And it was just instantly, we just started hanging out, and it was just, it was really nice, and you find friends just like in a snap. And then teachers help. I specifically have a lot of struggles with reading. They've got a learning center up in the upper school, and so I was in there basically every free period my freshman year, just getting extra help on my reading, just because that's what I struggled with, and now I don't have to be there every free period.
Yeah, so one of my personal struggles that I still kind of deal with, it kind of resurges every other day, is I have this like really irrational fear that like, that I'm not gonna like fit in my grade, or like that I'm an outlier. And it really surfaced like in those like rough years of middle school, which is really a time where you're supposed to form your identity. And even though I had those thoughts, every single time I'd like bring it up to someone, people would always say like, no, Jake, you're like you're awesome. Like they'd really pick me up. And every time I might say like well, where do I fit in? Like it's not like, oh well, you're with the nerds, you're with the jocks. It's you're part of the class of 2020. And that's one of my favorite things, is that I'm not in like a clique, I'm with my class. And every time I ever have doubts, like, well, do I really fit in? Someone will always be there to say, of course you fit in. You are this to our class. And that really makes me feel really good.
That's great.
So I got hurt sophomore year during the lacrosse season, and that whole summer and the fall and winter, I had to get surgery in the summer, late summer, and then I had to do physical therapy and all the recovery. And mentally, more than physically, that's extremely challenging. I just remember last year like being like, is all this hard work really worth it? And like it really was. But like the point I'm trying to make is like I had great support here. I went to the counselor a couple times. We have an upper school counselor, probably met her, which is great. My coach, Mr. Farrell, is awesome. Just helped me get through it. Coach Sharp. But I just had a great support group, and more mentally than physically, like just being motivated, being determined to get through that. I had to go to physical therapy and for like an hour and a half every day, and work out and have homework later. And I had the hardest class last year, so just balancing it out was hard, but definitely this community helped me get through that, and that was a good thing to see that they were able to do that.
For me, I'd say in lower school actually. So I came in first, and then I bonded with maybe the same 4 best friends for the next 3 years of my life, and it was amazing. We always hung out. It was so much fun. And then all of them decided to leave and go to a different school, and some of them moved and all that. And and my parents actually look at it worse than I do, because they thought that like I was gonna be so heartbroken and I was hurt. And I mean, I was briefly, but like, because I missed them, but I think it was almost natural to me. Like I don't even remember being in that much pain or suffering at all, really, because at BL I just felt so comfortable with all the kids in my class. It was a really small class in lower school. And I made friends again instantly and I got to hang out with anybody else. And so that was in 4th grade. So it was amazing, truly special.
I actually have a similar story to Lowell's. I think I made like 4 best friends in middle school. 3 out of those 4 have left BL. So like, I felt like I was cursed or something. Like all my friends are leaving, but every time one of my best friends would have left and I was sad, like my other friends would step up and say, hey, it's okay, you're still friends with them. They might be somewhere else, but you're still friends with them. And actually, one of my friends, and probably one of my favorite people that has ever been a part of the class of 2020, Chase Brown, he lives in Seattle now, but he will come back, every 2 months, and I'll go to his house and we'll hang out, and it's just like old times. That bond that I forged with him isn't going to break no matter how far apart we are.
It was also, it just felt so natural, because literally the next year, 2 of my closest best friends now came into school, and it was crazy. Like one of them, it was like maybe the 3rd day of school or something, and he asked me if we wanted to go get ice cream, and I was like, yeah, sure, let's just go. And it's like I couldn't drive or anything, so like when I got in, I used to have like a nanny, so when I got in her car, he just like came in too, and she was like, who's this person? What are you doing? Oh, we're going to get ice cream. And so ever since then, we've been so close, bestest of friends. Yeah.
Ice cream, unicorns, rainbows, all day long, all the time.
I don't even eat ice cream. So
any sensitive ever on time? We'll squeeze in one last question. Here we go.
Can you talk a little bit about your plans after
It's a great way to close. Thank you.
I am planning to go to Bates College. Lacrosse will be part of my experience there.
I'm going to University of Richmond, and I'll be playing lacrosse there as well.
Do you want to major?
I'm planning on majoring in politics and also maybe pre-law.
Something business related, maybe real estate or economics.
So I did an early decision application to Cornell. I hear back soon, so fingers crossed. If that doesn't pan out, I'm going to be applying to Franklin Marshall, and I think I will be good there. And I'm planning on doing something with biology, whether that be cellular biology, life sciences, something involving life.
Yeah, I applied to UMBC, Drexel, and Loyola, and I'm going for engineering.
Great.
Can I ask one more fast question?
Okay, one more fast question.
Do you find that the faculty and your peers help you identify, remember you talked about finding your identity in terms of acting or robotics? How did you find these areas of interest to then exploit and explore?
So the same teacher I had last year for my English class was the teacher I had freshman year for my world cultures class. And similarly, it was a lot of work, and I was stressed out. But I also just realized I could really just handle it if I put my mind to it. But one of the things he did was he had us read current articles about things that are going on around the world. And I was always, I guess in middle and lower school, I used to watch the news just because we ate with, me and my family, we ate together, and we would always watch the news. But ever since I took that class, I genuinely started caring about what was actually happening around the world, and I wanted to get involved with things. And now I'm one of the leaders in Diversity Club. I've been to a conference across the country in California one year, and now I facilitate conferences here in Baltimore. So really, ever since that class, I've started to wanted to learn on my own about what everybody's going through and try to help with that.
Believe it or not, I found out that teachers are people too, and they have, interests that students have. So I was talking about Mr. Freeman. I never knew all the stuff that he did. He did. He's actually running a RPG role-playing game, kind of like D&D, in our advisory right now. And to some people that'll be like, oh, well, that's only something that nerds do. But he does it, and he does it proudly. And anybody that's interested, he's like, you can do it if you want, and we do it. And we just have a good time. The teachers here, the faculty, they aren't afraid of, just doing what they like, even if that will be seen as something, that other people don't do or don't like. They'll do it if they like, and, if students like that, they'll gravitate towards it.
Thank you.
I think it's a great note to end on. These guys, as put together and as impressive as they are, they're still young men. They're still developing. They're still finding their interests. The jobs they're going to have, we don't even know if they're created yet. So to have an experience where they can continue to pursue passions and be encouraged by faculty members, say, you'd be good at this, go try it. See how that translates over down the years, and to hear guys who go off to colleges who, one of our students who graduated a couple years ago, going down to Duke, pursuing a science engineering track academically, but being able to play the band here still and loving that, saying, why should I stop that? Why not try here? And going out and being a non-music major playing in the band at Duke doesn't happen every day, but we would love to think a little bit of credit, pat on the back, of because we put him in a position to continue to pursue those interests and be in that setting and balance those two worlds. He said, why not keep doing that? It's something I love doing. Why not keep it up and also pursue those seemingly divergent kind of interests with them? So I think it's a great place to end in terms of how we try to encourage these guys and how they take advantage of it. That's the most important thing. They've got to take advantage of it, get the most out of their experience. So I appreciate these guys. Let's give them a round of applause for